Hello and welcome everyone. You're watching our special presentation on F1. F1 Decoded. I'm Shivani Gupta. Here we're going to help you understand the ABC of the sport known as Formula One. The steering wheel of a Formula One car has almost nothing in common with the round circle we use in our road cars. Shape and function of an F1 steering wheel has evolved over the past decades tremendously. Nico Rosberg explains the most significant changes concerning the steering wheel of his Mean Machine.
Look at this. It's a steering wheel from a Silver Arrow from the 1950s. It's a perfect circle with no buttons to push, since it only had one function, which is to steer the car. Nowadays my steering wheel looks a bit different. This is it right here, and there's more than 20 buttons on there to push. But to be honest, if you look on a road car, they're getting more and more functions integrated into the wheel too. It's just clever thinking, because it makes it safer and easier to handle. It means your eyes stay on the road at all times. But while it may have all these gadgets and gizmos on it, there's one safety system a road car has that is missing on here, which is an airbag. In F1, we just couldn't fit one inside the tiny steering wheel, and the wheel has to be removable so that I can get out of the car in a couple of seconds in an emergency. So it would be tough to design an airbag to allow that. Instead, innovative thinking led to the development of the head and neck support system, or HANS device, to perform this function for us.
This steering wheel is an enormously powerful device. It has a microchip processor responsible for data transfer back to the pit wall, and it is also designed to be the one place where the driver can access all the controls for different systems on the car. Amongst this multitude of systems we have, for example, the radio. The driver will use this button to communicate back to the pits for all his instructions on fuel economy, race pace, and where he is at any given time. He also has a pit lane speed limiter. You've heard about pit stops. This limits his speed to 100 km an hour in the pit lane. Very, very important for the safety of all the pit crews. And he also controls the rear light. Just like on a road car, when the rain comes up and visibility is poor, he needs a rear light. In the end, the human behind the wheel has to make all the decisions, just like you do on the road.
There's so much to look out for when you're driving. Whether it's in F1 or on the road, it's vital to concentrate. Some people say the more buttons you have on the wheel, the more distraction it creates. But it's actually the opposite. Having controls on the wheel, as long as you know how to use them, is a big benefit. Because if you can keep your hands on the wheel at all times, you're just much more in control.
Now that's one complicated steering wheel, isn't it? Moving on, from the steering wheel to the engine to the transmission of a Formula One car, well, they're some of the most highly stressed pieces of machinery on this planet, and the competition to gain most power on the grid is still very intense. And to achieve the best result, an F1 car has to be assembled with cent percent perfection, because even 99.9% accuracy means the car running on the track might be missing as many as 80 components.
The gearboxes of modern Formula One cars are highly automated. We shift gears by using the pedals behind the steering wheel, and they're maybe a little bit comparable to the sequential gearboxes from motorbikes, except that our gear changes just happen so much faster.
There are 7-speed boxes, 7 ratios with 1 reverse, and the thing that's really developed in the last few years is what we call seamless changes. And that means we change from one gear to the next without losing any power from the engine. We don't have to dip the clutch, we don't have to lose drive. And what we actually do is engage both gears at the same time. One starts to overtake the other, and just before it becomes a problem, the other one pulls out. So we get seamless acceleration.
First of all, there's the gear ratios, which you need to tune from one track to another. And then there's also the way the shifts happen, because very often you're in the middle of the corner and you have to shift, so you need to make sure that the shift is very smooth. Otherwise it could snap the rear away and you could spin and you could be off the track. That requires a lot of detailed work.
They're also very tough little things. They weigh around 35 kilos, but they've got to take 750 horsepower and a huge amount of torque from the engine, 350 Newton meters. So they're really nice pieces of engineering, almost like Swiss watchmaking when you look inside them, but great piece of engineering.
In a typical race, I might shift about 3,100 times. So you can imagine that all I'm doing all the time is like shifting. And at the same time, I need to change brake balance, switch on the curves, the rear wing, the differential. So there's a lot going on in the cockpit.
Now, the tires in an F1 car present themselves as black and beautiful but volatile this season. Without a doubt, they are a key to the driver's success. They have to withstand enormous forces, but how to decode their volatile attitude? Well, it's quite simple. We present everything you need to know about the black gold.
Tires are a crucial part of both racing and safety in Formula One. Having a single supplier means everyone uses the same tires, but there are lots of options. There are 4 different types of dry tires we can use. Each is made from a different compound, and they offer more grip the softer they are. There's a super soft, which is marked in red, a soft, which is yellow, a medium, which is white, and a hard compound, which is silver. For each Grand Prix, Pirelli makes just 2 of these compounds available to the teams. And in the race, we have to use both types. The tire strategy can affect our racing performance enormously. For wet weather, we also have an intermediate tire marked in green and an extra wet tire, which is blue. Obviously, those 2 are only needed if there's water on track, to make conditions safer by moving the water out of the way. At 300 kilometers an hour, the intermediate tire shifts 20 liters of water per second, and the wet tire 60 liters per second.
Each tyre loses its grip after a certain number of laps. This depends on the tyre itself, the compound and the driving style. The super soft loses its grip earlier than the soft tyre, and so on down the line. As well as normal wear, tyres running too hot can blister, and tyres running too cold can grain, and this is responsible for the grip loss. The wear and tear of these tyres have to withstand is not comparable to anything else on the road. The tyre has its perfect working temperature window between 90 and 110 degrees.
Imagine at this temperature water starts boiling. I would never touch boiling water, but we start working with the tyres at this temperature.
We have seen races where tyres really reach their limits. At tremendous speeds of above 300 kilometers an hour, we all have to be sure that this tyre will withstand the enormous loads and the temperatures as well.
We're always looking at tyre degradation and wear. It's the same on a road car. It sounds obvious, but whether in Formula 1 or on the road, the tyres are one single thing connecting your car with the road. The better conditions your tyres are in, the better performance you can get.
The Formula 1 pit stop is a perfect choreography within split seconds. Precision, timing and teamwork are the key for success. Nico Rosberg and his team's chief strategist James Vowles explains how the Mercedes team works really hard to make their pit stops perfect to the last millisecond.
Formula 1 is a team sport, especially when it comes to pit stops. Precise timing and perfect positioning is essential. I fly in at 80 to 100 kilometers per hour and break down to 0, and I come really close to the guys in my pit crew. So they put all their confidence in me, and I have to be incredibly precise to keep them safe. Fast cars and people standing or walking around is a really dangerous mix, which I'm sure you know from daily traffic.
Over the winter, we train doing 40 to 50 pit stops a day for a period of 6 weeks. As the car comes in, before the car has even stopped, the guns are connected, both front and rear. And the plan is to try and get the wheels off as quick as possible, normally under a second. The guys then work together as a team. We use a semi-automated light system. So as the guys are finished with the guns, as everyone else is cleared from the car, the system allows the driver to then leave again. The pit stops these days take just under 2.5 seconds, so everything happens in an extremely short period of time.
In the early days of Formula One, a pit stop took almost 4 minutes. Only 2 people were involved in the process. It really was an adventure, both for the team and the driver. Refueling also took place, a practice that is banned today. If we're finding it tough to overtake out on track, it's the one opportunity in the race to turn our strategy into success. You can win or lose a lot.
As it is, driving a Formula One car is very difficult. There's so many things a driver has to take note of, and to add to the problem is almost zero visibility up close from the cockpit. Take a look.
From the driver's perspective, the view is extremely limited in a Formula One car. And the position, it's really as if you were lying down in the racing car. And you can hardly see anything except the 2 front tires and something that is quite far away. So if it's like 20 meters in front of you, you couldn't even see it.
His vision is his primary feedback from what's going on around him. It's crucial that he can see as much as possible of what's ahead of him on the road. Yet he has this very small window to look out of. It's a very well developed system in which the visors are tinted for different light situations. Dark in Singapore with the bright artificial lighting is very different from a bright day in Brazil.
We can see a little bit left and right sometimes. So what we do going down the straight is we look out on the left to see if we can see some sort of billboards or anything as such that will give us an indication of where we are on the track, and allows us to understand when might our braking point arrive. So it's very, very difficult. The only help we have in such a situation is tear-offs on our helmet, and because if everything becomes extremely dirty, you hardly can see anything. So I can pull it off, and then I have clear visibility again for a few laps, and then I need to pull the next one off, and I just hope that I have enough of it on until the end of the race.
When it rains, when it's sunny, when it's darker, we have to be changing visors and tear-offs to give them the opportunity to clear their visor when it gets wet and covered in mud. All these scenarios which effectively lead the driver to give him the best possible vision of what's ahead of him. That's all he desires, is to see what's ahead of him in all times in as clear a vision as possible, and that allows him to make the best judgments he possibly can.
Now, you must have heard that a single F1 race is as exhausting as running a marathon. The level of fitness among Formula One drivers is extremely high. Mercedes driver Nico Rosberg is amongst the fittest of them all. He even invented a specific exercise to strengthen his neck muscles. These are never before seen camera shots of Nico doing his special exercise.
A few decades ago, the driver's fitness level was not as high. Today, most of us have a strict and very demanding fitness program every week. An F1 race is as exhausting as running a marathon, and even worse, to be honest, when the cockpit gets hot. Without training, I would be so exhausted during a race it could be dangerous, both because of physical exhaustion and also just mental fatigue. And just like when you're on the road, if you're exhausted and you can't think straight, you shouldn't be there. In Formula One, we also have to stay focused on driving whilst coping with enormous G-forces. Personally, I train for a triathlon, which consists of running, swimming and cycling. And I developed a special exercise to train particular muscle areas, especially my neck. The most important thing is to drink enough so you don't dehydrate. You have to drink before you're thirsty to avoid mental drops in performance and driving mistakes. I know all the other guys are working hard to stay in shape, so I just always try and do that little extra bit more to be fitter than them. You have to really want it, and the ability to do it is all in your head. Your mind controls and protects your body. You don't have to be an F1 driver to need a healthy mind and body. Whether it's racing or driving, if you're fit, well hydrated and fresh, not tired, you're safer behind the wheel.
Now, the safety car is one of the most crucial safety elements in the sport of Formula One. Its history dates back to the Canadian Grand Prix of 1973. Here, watch how it all began, follow the safety car's development up to the present, and see in which situations the car is sent onto the track.
It's 20 years since the safety car was introduced into Formula One, and it's one of the most crucial safety elements in the sport. It comes out for two reasons. First, if debris from an accident can't be cleared and is affecting the race. Second, to slow down the racing in extremely bad weather conditions. You'd automatically slow down on slippery roads for safety reasons, but sometimes we have to be told to by the safety car.
The idea of a safety car was never in anyone's mind until 1973. That year, at a race in Canada, there were extremely bad weather conditions. A so-called pace car drove out on the track to prevent the drivers from serious harm. This new situation caused a massive stir because the pace car didn't pick up the leader. The race director lost track of who was in front. However, it took another 20 years for the safety car to get officially introduced.
Now it's a high-performance car, mounted with stronger brakes, sports suspension, and a really powerful engine. And just like you followed the everyday rules on the road, when it's out on track, we really drive to its instructions.
The safety car always affects the race, but this year the FIA introduced a change to the way it's operated. It is just one small change, but it will affect the strategy plans of the top teams significantly. In the past, the on-track order at the time the safety car came out was not allowed to change. Now, lap cars can unlap themselves during the safety car period.
This change could severely affect any lead built up by a team. However, slow cars are a hazard. Just like on the road, frustration at being stuck behind a slower car can see drivers make risky decisions that lead to accidents. One thing is certain: when so much is going on around you, you really have to concentrate.
Experts in Formula One are constantly thinking of ways to optimize safety, especially the helmet. Mercedes team driver Nico Rosberg tells you more about the one vital protection for the driver's head.
Head and neck trauma remain one of the worst single injuries that we can experience as Formula One drivers. As a result, the helmets have been developed, and you can just feel, I mean, now it's like 1,200 or 1,300 grams, and that's just amazing, considering that all the things that they put in here, the carbon, the visor, and all the rest of it. We experience extreme G-forces in cornering, so already for my neck muscles that's a big help. But not only that, it helps extremely in the case of an accident.
The energy that it needs to absorb is greater than that when a bullet is fired from a gun. The outer part of the helmet is made from an incredibly strong shell of carbon fibre and Kevlar, and this is designed to protect the driver's head in the impact. The inside of the helmet is a dense, expanded polystyrene foam that can absorb all the energy.
Quite amazingly also, they put a lot of effort into wind tunnel testing with the helmets, because it's such a big surface of the actual car that even this is optimized for downforce and for drag and everything. So all these little spoilers and winglets on my helmet, they've been done in the wind tunnel. And then finally also such details as our little windshield. You know, that's also done in the wind tunnel, because that also optimizes the airflow over the car and also over my head, and it reduces buffeting or movement or something that I could get if the wind doesn't flow smoothly. So as you can see, even in the area of the helmet, there's a constant push to optimize the safety.
Well, it's October again, and Indian fans surely cannot wait for their treat of high-octane F1 action at the BIC in Greater Noida. But safety is uppermost in this sport, and the head and neck support system weighs only about 200 grams, but it withstands forces of up to 2 tons. Nico Rosberg and Andrew Chauvelin of the Mercedes Petronas team explain how it works.
It looks pretty awkward, but this is a safety device. It's called HANS, and it protects my head and neck in an accident. It was only introduced into F1 9 years ago, and does a similar job to the airbag you have in your car.
In the beginning, it was too big to be worn in single-seaters. In cooperation with Mercedes-Benz, a more suitable version was developed in 1997. It has been mandatory in F1 since 2003. It's basically a shoulder bracing, made of carbon fibre, so it's very light, about 200 grams, and each device has to be personally designed around the driver.
The carbon structure has the two straps, which you can see right here. They have to be attached to the helmet. In an accident, the HANS device has made a massive step in reducing neck injuries for us.
Wir sehen hier ganz gut, wie das HANS-System funktioniert.
We see very clearly here how the HANS system works. Beneath this wide belt, which is standard in Formula One, is where the actual HANS system is secured. And if due to the enormous force of a head-on crash, the driver's head comes forward, you can see here that this belt stops it going too far forward and thus relieves the strain on the neck muscles and also on the driver's spine.
Aber auch die Wirbelsäule des Fahrers.
This is the human neck. As you can see, the atlas bone is holding up the entire head. Also, the ligaments of the cervical spine are responsible for the stability of the spine. In case of a sudden impact, these joints of the cervical spine are extended up to 5 centimeters. The head and neck support system reduces this extension and protects the neck against hyperextension. In case of high-speed accidents, the neck could snap like this match. With HANS, it cannot happen.
It could easily withstand a force of 1 to 2 tons, and as a result, it is now accepted in Formula One and other motor racing series around the world.
And you want to know something incredible? Every 7 seconds, somebody's life is saved by a road car airbag. Every 7 seconds. HANS is the airbag of Formula One. It reduces neck motion by around 46% and the force of impact by around 86%. That is very significant. In fact, it's probably the one safety change in recent years that has most dramatically reduced driver injuries.
That was our special presentation, Decoding the Sport of Formula One. Keep watching Headlines Today for more on the build-up towards the Indian Grand Prix. Goodbye.